Imagine waking up, like 200 years from now, you open your eyes, and you're completely cured of whatever terminal disease ultimately killed you back in the 21st century.
Right, which is already a wild thought.
Yeah, but here is the crazy part. More importantly, thanks to basically 2 solid centuries of tax-free compound interest, you are now the wealthiest person on the planet.
You've literally taken your fortune with you beyond the grave.
Exactly. And this isn't just the plot of some sci-fi movie. This is a very real legal framework being drafted for tech billionaires right now.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a really fascinating stack of information today.
We've got a lot to cover, everything from the latest estate planning law blogs and critical essays on Silicon Valley's longevity crusade to psychological studies and white papers on AI investment funds.
Yeah, and our mission today is to explore this bizarre intersection of extreme wealth, the quest for immortality, and a psychological blind spot called the Barnum effect. Because it turns out that effect makes even the most brilliant minds fall for high-tech hype.
It really does. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the ultra-wealthy are quite literally freezing their bodies and their bank accounts in an attempt to just cheat death entirely.
They absolutely are. I mean, it represents this really fundamental shift in how human mortality is viewed, right? Historically, death has just been accepted as the ultimate inevitability, the final boundary of the human condition.
Right, like it happens to everybody.
Exactly. But the culture driving this current trend, they look at death not as a biological certainty, but as an engineering problem. Or, if we use the vernacular of the space, a software bug that just hasn't been patched yet.
And that culture is, without a doubt, Silicon Valley. I mean, you look at the names pouring staggering amounts of capital into this crusade, and it's basically a who's who of the tech world.
Oh, totally.
Like Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he personally dropped $180 million into retro biosciences. And their explicit goal is to add 10 healthy years to the human lifespan.
Yeah, and then you have Jeff Bezos backing Altos Labs, which focuses on cellular rejuvenation. And Deepinder Goyal is teasing this brain-computer interface wearable called Temple.
Right, so this isn't fringe science anymore. It's this incredibly well-funded mainstream obsession among the tech elite.
It really is. And, an obsession of that magnitude requires a very specific legal architecture to support it. Just think about the practical implications for a second.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you genuinely believe you're going to be cryonically suspended, like your body or just your brain preserved in a vat of liquid nitrogen when you legally die, and then thawed out in a century or two when medical tech catches up, you have a major logistical problem.
Because you do not want to wake up in the year 2200 completely destitute.
Exactly, you need money. But traditional legal and financial systems are built on the premise that when you die, well, it's over.
Right, your assets go through probate, they get hit with massive estate taxes, and then they're distributed to your heirs or, to charity.
Right, so innovative estate attorneys are exploiting loopholes in trust law to create what are known as cryonic suspension trusts or revival trusts.
Wait, how does that even work legally?
Well, in the past, the law had these rules against perpetuities, which basically meant trusts couldn't last forever. The money had to vest eventually.
Okay.
But a lot of jurisdictions have just abolished those rules entirely to attract billionaire capital. So now you can set up a trust that treats your cryonically frozen body not as a deceased person, but effectively as a beneficiary in, medical limbo.
That is wild. So
Yeah.
the goal is just to shield the wealth from estate taxes.
Shield it from taxes, place it under the control of corporate trustees, and just let compound interest aggressively multiply it over centuries. So by the time you're supposedly reanimated, your wealth has been growing unchecked the entire time.
I have to push back a little on the idea that this is some modern, unprecedented breakthrough. Because reading about these revival trusts, I immediately thought of ancient Egypt.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. I mean, the pharaohs were buried deep inside pyramids with all their gold, their chariots, their weapons. They had their internal organs meticulously packed into canopic jars. They were absolutely convinced they were going to need all of those material possessions in the afterlife.
I really were.
So I have to ask you, is this actually cutting-edge science? Or is it just a modern, high-tech religion for people with too much money?
Well, that aligns perfectly with a concept known as transhumanism as secular eschatology.
Okay, eschatology. That's basically the study of the end of the world, right?
Exactly. It's traditionally a theological term dealing with the ultimate destiny of humankind. What we are seeing with the tech elite is the wholesale adoption of these historical religious frameworks, but with the spiritual vocabulary just swapped out for technological jargon.
So instead of trying to save your soul, you're trying to preserve your, what was the term? Your transcendent mind.
Yes, the soul becomes the transcendent mind or digital consciousness. Biological resurrection is rebranded as cryonic reanimation. And the concept of ascending to heaven is replaced by like uploading your mind to the cloud or achieving the singularity. And this isn't just an analytical observation. The people involved have historically treated it with real religious zeal.
Wait, really? Like, how far back did this go?
Well, back in the 1990s, early adopters of this philosophy called themselves extropians. One of the movement's leading figures, Max O'Connor, actually legally changed his name to Max More.
As in M-O-R-E.
Yes, as a literal declaration of his desire for more life, more intelligence, and more freedom. It's a belief system that demands profound faith.
Okay, but let's talk about the people holding that faith today. We are talking about engineers, data scientists, and innovators who build empires on empirical evidence,
Right.
measurable data.
Right, highly rational people.
Supposedly, right. So why on earth are they betting billions of dollars on a process cryonic revival that currently has zero proof of ever successfully working on a complex human organism? I mean, we haven't even successfully frozen and revived a mouse brain with its memories intact, let alone a human being.
To understand that massive cognitive dissonance, you have to look at the underlying philosophy of scientific meliorism.
Scientific meliorism, okay.
Yeah, it's this deeply entrenched, almost blind optimism. It's the core assumption that whatever is not strictly mathematically ruled out by the fundamental laws of physics will inevitably be achieved given enough time and capital.
Wait, so because physics doesn't explicitly state, like, you absolutely cannot freeze a human brain, thaw it out, and reboot consciousness, they just assume it's a solvable engineering hurdle.
Precisely. It is built on a very flawed induction. The logic essentially goes, because technology has progressed so rapidly in the past and we've solved problems that once seemed like magic, technology will automatically conquer all future biological hurdles.
Wow. So it just completely ignores biological realities and complexities.
Exactly. And the most fascinating part of scientific meliorism is how it handles failure. When a technological milestone is missed or an experiment fails, believers do not see it as evidence that the core scientific theory might be flawed.
What do they see it as then?
They just blame a lack of funding or insufficient computational power. The dream is never wrong. It just needs more money.
And that desperation for the dream to be real leads to some incredibly dark places. Like, we really need to talk about the story of Kim Swazi from the sources. It is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that case is very tough to read about.
She was a 23-year-old college student who was diagnosed with a highly aggressive terminal brain cancer, and she was terrified of dying, as literally anyone would be.
Absolutely.
And Alcor, which is one of the largest, most prominent cryonics facilities, they essentially swooped in. She was trying to crowdfund her cryopreservation online, and Alcor ended up using her tragedy.
They cast her in a recruitment marketing video, didn't they?
Yes. They took this dying young woman, took her very real, very human terror, and packaged it into a slick, pseudoscientific narrative just to attract more funding from the wealthy tech demographic. It was a corporate pitch built on the back of a 23-year-old's tragedy.
It is a profoundly tragic example, but it perfectly illustrates the mechanics of how this industry sustains itself. You have individuals facing the terrifying certainty of death, combined with an industry selling the blind optimism of scientific meliorism.
It's basically a recipe for disaster.
It creates a massive psychological vulnerability. And if you look at history, the exploitation of that specific type of vulnerability is the exact playbook perfected by P.T. Barnum back in the 19th century.
Right, the circus guy.
Exactly. Barnum actually coined the term humbugging. He understood deeply that if you want to sell an illusion or a product that you cannot empirically prove actually works, you don't use logic.
You don't show them the math.
No, you exploit human psychology by giving people a narrative that they desperately fundamentally want to believe.
Which brings us to the psychology of hype, and this concept known as the Barnum effect. And this part is fascinating. Back in 1948, a psychologist named Bertram Foer conducted what is now considered this classic foundational experiment.
Right, the personality test experiment.
Yeah. He handed his students a personality test, told them he was going to analyze their specific answers, and then a few days later handed them back a highly personalized psychological profile. And he asked them to rate how accurate the profile was on a scale of 0 to 5.
And the results were just staggering. The students gave the profiles an average accuracy rating of 4.3 out of 5. They were completely amazed. They felt incredibly seen and understood by the test.
Yes, but the catch, the brilliant trick of the whole experiment, was that Fora had literally thrown all of their tests in the trash.
He hadn't analyzed a single thing.
Nothing. He gave every single student the exact same profile, filled with vague, universally applicable statements that he had just copied out of a newsstand astrology book.
Statements like, you have a tendency to be critical of yourself.
Or at times you have serious doubts as to whether you have made the right decision. Or you have a great deal of unused capacity. And yet everyone thought it was written exclusively for them.
That is the Barnum effect in its purest form. And it works because of an underlying psychological mechanism called the Pollyanna principle.
The Pollyanna principle, what is that exactly?
It's our innate cognitive bias to eagerly accept flattering, positive information as highly accurate, while instinctively rejecting or ignoring negative